Buenas noches a todos, bienvenidos al seminario web. Por favor, mientras vayan entrando, denos unos minutos que comenzaremos pronto.
This meeting is being recorded.
請各位稍後，我哋等各位參加嘅人入晒嚟我哋嘅房間之後咧，我哋嘅今日嘅研討會即將開始。
大家晚上好，欢迎你们参加我们今天加州全州的托儿服务牌照讲座。谢谢您今天晚上参与今天的讲座。我们再过几分钟，等大家都登入之后
The
就会
recording
开
has
始。
stopped.
谢谢。
This meeting is being recorded.
Good evening and welcome to the statewide child care licensing webinar. Thank you for joining us this evening. We will begin very shortly. We're just still allowing everyone to come in.
Buenas noches y bienvenidos al seminario web sobre las licencias de cuidado infantil en todo el estado. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Vamos a comenzar en unos minutos. Les estamos dando la oportunidad que todos se conecten.
各位歡迎參加全州嘅兒童托兒所牌照網絡研討會。感謝你哋參加今日嘅會議。我哋即將喺幾分鐘之後開始，讓一啲參與者入我哋嘅研討會裏邊。多謝。
大家晚上好，欢迎你们参加今天加州全州的托儿服务牌照讲座。谢谢你们今天来参与本次的讲座。我们再过几分钟就要开始今天的讲座，我们现在再给几分钟让大家能够登入我们会议室，谢谢。
Hello and welcome. Your microphone has been muted and your video has been turned off as you are entering the room. In order to provide language access, this webinar is presenting in English, Spanish, Cantonese, and Mandarin. If you are on the laptop or desktop, after you are done with this announcement, you will see a globe at the bottom right of your screen. Please click on the globe icon that said interpretation and select English. If you are on an iPad or a similar device, locate the three dots menu on the upper right and select language interpretation, then select English. Right now, we will have interpretation in Spanish, Cantonese, and Mandarin. So Giovanna, please interpret in Spanish for us, please.
Buenas noches y gracias por acompañarnos. Su micrófono estará en silencio y su video estará apagado mientras que entran a la sala. Para facilitar el acceso a los servicios del idioma, esta reunión contará con interpretación simultánea en español. Si está utilizando una computadora portátil o de escritorio, una vez que hayamos terminado con este anuncio, verá un globo terráqueo en la parte de abajo de derecha de su pantalla. Por favor, seleccione el icono del globo terráqueo que dice interpretación y luego seleccione español. Si está utilizando un iPad o un dispositivo similar, ubique el menú de 3 puntos en la parte de arriba a la derecha, seleccione interpretación de idiomas y luego seleccione español. Cuando sea su turno de hablar, por favor, recuerde hablar con voz fuerte y clara y a un ritmo moderado, ya que el intérprete interpretará simultáneamente al otro idioma.
Thank you. And George, can you please translate in Cantonese?
各位晚上好，再感謝你哋加入我哋今晚嘅研討會。你哋嘅麥克風已經靜音，你哋嘅視頻亦都關閉咗。呢位女士係 Jane， 佢係今日嘅主持，我係 George， 將會你哋嘅廣東話傳譯員。今次嘅網絡研討會咧係會以英文、西班牙語、粵語同埋普通話進行。要訪問每一個語言嘅唔同嘅單位咧，你哋可以喺你哋嘅熒光幕上面見到一個地球嘅樣子嘅選擇。 嚟選擇你哋嘅語言，或者喺右上角一個 View 有3粒點嘅地方，點擊之後拉落嚟，你選擇廣東話嘅傳譯，就可以入到我哋廣東話嘅部分。強調今次研討會嘅 PowerPoint 內容咧係英文同埋有西班牙語同埋中文嘅，可以喺社區護理嘅網站裏邊提供咗。咁等一陣，我哋呢個地球先會出現㗎啦。咁你哋稍後片刻，多謝。
Thank you. And then Yanan, can you please translate in Mandarin?
大家晚上好，请你们今天登入我们现在会议室的时候，您会发现您的摄像头已经是关闭的状态，而且我们已经主动帮您关上静音。再等一下，我们都公告过我们所有语言频道的指示之后，您会在屏幕底下看到有一个翻译的地球图案。今天我们的讲座呢，为了提供语言的服务，我们翻译为双向同声的传译，有英文翻译为西班牙语、广东话以及普通话。在我们等一下给完指示之后，您会看到屏幕底下的这个地球图案。为了避免我们技术性的干扰，我们要求参加会议的每一个人都要从语言频道中选择您想听的语言。如果您使用的是台式或是笔记本的电脑，您会在屏幕底下看到一个地球形状的图标，点击图标之后呢，您可以选择语言频道的这个选项。里面如果您是要用英语听取的话，也请您要选择英语 English 的频道。如果是要普通话的话，您选择的就是 Chinese Mandarin 的频道。如果您使用的是 iPad 啊、手机啊，或是这些移动性的设备的话，您会在屏幕的右上角看到3点图标。点击以后也是一样会有语言频道的选择，你可以选择英文、广东话、西班牙语或是普通话，普通话就是 Chinese Mandarin。如果您想要只听到传译的部分，而不想要听到原音的英文的话，您可以点击下面有一个选项，就是把原本的音频消音。谢谢。Thank you.
Thank you. We will wait a couple of seconds for everybody to join into their language preferred room. So if you look at the bottom, you will see there is a globe at this time. So please join into your preferred language room if you would like to do that at this moment. Again, thank you so much for making time from your busy schedule to join us this evening. My name is Jane Kong-Huynh, and I will be one of the presenters for this evening's webinar. The webinar PowerPoint content is offered in English, Spanish, Cantonese, and Mandarin. It is available for downloading from the CDSS Community Care Licensing website under Resources for Providers. You must download this PowerPoint to access all of the links in the presentation. We will be recording the main presentation portion of this webinar. Next, please. During the remainder of the webinars, we are using the Q&A box for your questions. We will respond to the question at the end of the presentation. Presentation will use the chat box to share various links and additional information. How to ask questions during the webinar. Type a question in the Q&A box at any time during this presentation. We will respond verbally at the end of the formal presentation. We are using upvoting feature in our webinars to help attendees influence the order of questions and responses by interest. This helps the panel better understand what questions are most important to you. If we are unable to get to your question, please reach out to your local licensing program analyst or your local regional office. As a reminder, copies of material related to this webinar are available on the CDSS licensing website under Resources for Providers. We also want to let you know that the English recordings of the August and September 2022 provider webinars have been posted on the DSS website as well. We will be dropping various links and resources in the chat throughout the webinar. Next, please. This is our agenda for this evening webinar. We will be discussing Child Care Licensing Program updates, American Rescue Plan Act, and we do have guest speakers from the California Department of Social Services Office of Child Abuse Prevention. Thanks to our guest speakers and panelists who partner with us on this webinar tonight. Again, thank you to all of you for joining us this evening. Next, please. We want to kick off our meeting this evening by reviewing an update to the Executive Order N1122. Executive Order 1122 allows the Director of CDSS to waive provision of Title 22 regulation, Health and Safety Code, and accompanying regulation and written directive. In response to the pandemic, the school closures and program established emergency temporary child care programs to meet the capacity needs. These waiver expired on 2/28 of 2023 at the end of the state of emergency. All licensing requirements shall be reinstated once the waivers expire. For more information and guidance on COVID-19, please see the links on this slide. Next, please. PIN 2302-CCLD was released on January 18, 2023. This PIN shares information on the governor's proclamation of the state of emergency in response to severe winter storms in California. It includes information on Executive Order N123, which grants the Director of the Department of Social Services specific waiver authority to respond to the needs of impacted providers. If the severe weather impacted you, please contact the regional office and discuss waiver options. As a reminder, waivers are approved on a case-by-case basis. For more information on the state of emergency related to severe weather, please see the resource links on this slide. Next, please. As a result of a new law that became effective January 1st of 2023, the Criminal Record Statement, LIC 508, is no longer required as part of the background check process. Please see PIN 22-14 CCLD for more details. And if you have questions, contact the Care Provider Management Bureau. You can send an email to guardian@dss.ca.gov or call 888-422-5669. Next, please. The Care Provider Management Bureau, or CPMB, is inviting providers to join them for monthly webinars on background check process. To learn more about these webinars, subscribe to provider information notices. If you wish to review previous webinars, see the recorded webinars link on this slide. Finally, as a reminder, the Guardian webpage has numerous tips and tools to help providers through the background check process. Next, please. We will discuss now about the American Rescue Plan Act survey. The American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA survey has been updated to meet federal requirements. Licensee must complete the new ARPA survey to be eligible to receive any ARPA-funded investment, such as license incentive for family child care homes or subsidized licensees who are receiving state funding for care. Either via voucher or direct service contract may be received ARPA in the form of supplemental rate payments and winter 2023 stipend of $1,442 per child. The new ARPA survey released on July 13 of 2022 must be completed by June 1st of 2023, even if you had completed the survey prior to July of 2022. All survey data will be protected and reported to the federal government to help them better understand how COVID-19 funding impacted and provided relief to Californians. Next, please. Next, we will be discussing allergies, cold, flu, and COVID. We want to take some time this evening to talk about these items. It can be difficult to tell the difference between seasonal allergies, common cold, flu, and COVID-19 symptoms. Staying well informed is alleviate various concern when experiencing symptoms. Seasonal allergy are immune system responses triggered by exposure to allergens, such as seasonal trees, grass pollen, and symptoms that can affect nose, sinuses, and lungs. Unlike the common cold, flu, and COVID-19, seasonal allergies are not caused by a virus. These conditions cause many of the same signs and symptoms. However, there are some differences. The National Institute of Health 2022 webpage contains a chart that compares the symptom of common cold, flu, COVID-19, and allergies and provide tips on guarding against illnesses. Vaccination against COVID-19 and the flu, in addition to masking, frequent and proper hand washing, and physical distancing, adds another layer of significantly reduce the risk of infection, serious illness, and potential hospitalization. Next, please. Wildfire can occur anytime, so fire safety is important 365 days each year. One key part of preparing for wildfires is having a disaster plan ready in advance. It is vital to have essential supplies on hand. Some examples of supplies include ample fresh water, non-perishable food, maps with evacuation routes, first aid kits, and flashlights. Spring is also a great time to ensure facility fire suppression system, smoke alarms, and carbon monoxide detector have working batteries, are up to date, and working condition. We also want to suggest the best practice to check and changes air filter in your home or facility at this time. During spring, CAL FIRE recommend preparing a defense space around your properties. This includes removing trees, dry shrub, trees with bark beetle damage to prepare for the hotter months of the fire season. CAL FIRE has more great tips and tools to support providers in fire prevention and safety. One way is to subscribe to the important updates on wildfire preparation. We invite you to check the links from this PowerPoint slide for more detail on fire safety. Finally, remember to inform families about your emergency disaster plan, an evacuation location where you have to relocate the children, just in case you need to evacuate from your facility due to wildfires or other disaster. Next slide, please. So May is coming up, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And May 3rd through the 9th is Children's Mental Health Awareness Week. Be sure to recognize the importance of taking care of yourself. Make yourself a priority. The work you do for children and their families is priceless, and you deserve every bit of self-care. We understand that through COVID and within the last few years, there has been mental health crisis among families, children, and child care professionals. We would like to share some helpful resources with you where you can find additional support. Please share these resources with your parents and family as well. Here are some helpful mental health resources. California Human Health Services Mental Health Resources for Youth, National Alliance on Mental Illnesses California, and Mental Health California. Again, you could get all of these links if you download our provider webinar PowerPoint from our DSS website. Next slide, please. April is also coming up next month, very fast this year. April is Autism Awareness Month, and April 2nd is World Autism Awareness Day. As a reminder, being inclusive of children and family with autism is an important way that providers can make space for equity. According to the Autism Society 2020, it is crucial that individuals with autism are accepted in their communities and can engage in active participants. Children with autism may experience many challenges, including varying degrees of difficulty in social situation and problem with verbalization. Expert reports that maintaining consistency, routine, and taking time to build communication skills in an empathetic and patient manner are the few ways to provide and can support children with autism. We also want to share that we want to take this opportunity and share that we mentioned that the Week of the Young Child, WOYC, from April 1st through April 7th. This is an annual celebration with the purpose of focusing public attention on the needs of young children and their families, and to recognize the early childhood programs and services that meets the needs. Many communities offer events celebrate. Check with your local resource and referral agency, or you can plan an activity resource available also at www.naeyc.org. During the month of April, it's also the National Child Abuse Prevention Month. It is also recognized as well. As a mandated reporter, it is important to identify the signs of child abuse and know how to report it. National Child Abuse Prevention Month is an excellent time to train your staff on recognizing child abuse and mandated reporter policy and procedures. Free training are available at the mandated reporting website on our DSS website. Additional information and resources can be found on the California Department of Social Services Office of Child Abuse Prevention webpage. We are so fortunate at this time to have a guest speaker today to come on our webinar, and we're honored to have her here from the Office of Child Abuse Prevention to present. Please welcome Ms. Amy Foster, Staff Service Manager of the Office of Child Abuse Prevention. Amy, welcome.
Hello, thank you, Jane. I appreciate it. So hello, everybody. My name is Amy Foster, and I am a manager in one of our Prevention Network Development units within the Office of Child Abuse Prevention, also known as OCAP, within the Child and Family Services Division. Next slide. So today I'm here to speak with you about Child Abuse Prevention Month, some interesting data around prevention, and a paradigm shift from mandated reporting to community supporting. I will also be sharing some resources at the end of my presentation to help support these topics. Next slide. Okay, National Child Abuse Prevention Month is an opportunity to share the importance of individuals and communities working together to keep families safe and healthy and prevent child abuse and neglect. Everyone has a role to play in making sure that our community is a great place for children and families to thrive. In our communities, we must work together in partnership, child welfare, education, health, community-based organizations, child care facilities, and families to prevent child abuse and protect our children. When the well-being of children and families becomes a priority of everyone in a community, child abuse and neglect cases decrease. Since 2012, the entries into foster care have decreased, showing that an investment in prevention is necessary and impactful. So in honor of April being Child Abuse Prevention Month, the OCAP holds several events throughout the month. So first, we hold an annual Kids Art contest where we invite children to submit art related to a theme. This year's theme is Who is Your Everyday Hero? We will also have an activities calendar which contains links for events, activities, and information for children, families, and communities. And all of the links will be virtual this year. We will also be gathering at our headquarters for CDSS to raise the Children's Memorial flag at 9:30 a.m. And then finally, we will have a speaker series which focuses on the shift from mandated reporting to community supporting and includes webinars about shifting to the community supporting system. You can register for these webinars by visiting our website, which will be on the resources slide, and I will also be sharing the link to the flyer where you can actually register directly. Next slide. So in 2022, AB Assembly Bill 2085 was passed and provided clarity to the definition of general neglect to not include a parent's economic disadvantage. This amendment to the Penal Code revised the standard for when a mandated reporter is required to make a report of child abuse or severe neglect, and clarifies the guidelines for reporting cases that legitimately may need child welfare intervention. In 2022, educators accounted for the largest group of mandated support reporters to report child abuse and neglect. Next slide. So shifting to a community supporting system will help keep families strong and together, and is part of an overall reimagining of the child welfare system to build a network of child, youth, family, community, and tribal well-being in California and nationwide. The passage of AB 2085 gives mandated reporters the opportunity to reframe the response to families in need of support by looking at alternative ways of addressing the mandated reporter's concerns about the child's environment. Prior to calling the hotline for an assessment, mandated reporters can ask questions regarding the concern being a true risk of harm to the child, and if not, look at how to best support the child and caregiver by providing services aimed at addressing their concerns. In addition to AB 2085, Senate Bill 1085 was passed and amended the Welfare and Institutions Code to prohibit a child from being within the jurisdiction of the juvenile court solely due to the conditions of financial difficulty, including but not limited to a lack of food, clothing, shelter, or childcare. The new legislation encourages child and family serving populations to support families rather than reporting when there is little question of risk for a child's safety. Next slide. So finally, we have a few resources that may help your understanding of the information presented today. I want to thank you for your time, and I will hand it back over to Jamie.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you to our guest speaker, Amy Foster from the Office of Child Abuse Prevention, for that very informative presentation and resources that she has just provided to us. It is so important that we are aware about mandated reporting requirement and to help prevent child abuse and child maltreatment. And thank you, Amy, for staying to the end of this webinar to answer any question we may have at the end. We want to pause at this time and also touch on the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion with regards to the special needs of children. Some children, due to physical, emotional, and learning needs, may require extra support in childcare. The California Making Access Possible to Inclusion and Belonging website has resources, training opportunities, and technical assistance to support an inclusive setting for children. These tools can help us support diversity, equity, and inclusion in childcare settings and services. You can access the resources by downloading this PowerPoint that is currently posted on our DSS website under Resources for Providers. Next, please. Stay connected is very important with all of us. Please review and update your contact information as well as having your email address on file. Let your licensing program analyst or your local regional office know when you have changes to your phone number, email address, changes of location, and any changes to your operation and or physical plan. A link to the local regional office contact information is on the slide and also located on our DSS website as well. Next slide, please. Please be informed and keep up with the current licensing updates by registering to be on our distribution list. Once you are on this list, you will receive licensing updates through provider information notices, also known as PINs, and quarterly updates sent directly into your email inbox. From CDSS homepage, you can click on the blue tab link, Receive Important Updates, or you can use your camera at this time and go to our QR code on the right side of your slide and register at this time. So we will go ahead and give a couple seconds for those of you who would wish to register to be on our distribution list again. We will give a few seconds to do that. Once you go into that web page, please enter your email address. Make sure it's the correct email address because we do get a lot of incorrect email address bounced back to us. And then go down and select the program or programs that you would like to receive updates and information. And then click OK. And you will be receiving information directly to your email address. So again, we will take this opportunity for those of you who have an iPhone or whatever phone you have, you can turn on your camera, go straight to that QR code with the little dinosaur and register to be on our distribution list at this time. Okay, I think that, and again, you can always go to our website to register. So don't take this as the only opportunity. So please do so. It will really, really make a big difference. Next slide, please. Another way to obtain licensing updates and receive important resources is to attend these provider webinars. We now have it quarterly. These are the dates for the future webinars. We have one on June 27th, September 26th, and December 12th. All webinars will be in the evening hours at 6 p.m. You can register to join these webinars by clicking on pin 22-30 CCP to register, and you will receive a Zoom invite in your email inbox. So again, please register to attend our future provider webinars. Next slide, please. We want to encourage you to please fill out the survey. We read your responses and value your suggestion to improve our webinars. Based on your survey feedback and ideas, we have made multiple changes to our webinars in the past year. Again, thank you for completing the survey. Next slide, please. Thank you for joining us for this presentation portion of this webinar. Next slide, please. Last but not least, we also want to make space tonight to celebrate our childcare providers, educator, and provider workforce. We want to celebrate and acknowledge the important work that you have done, the positive impact of high-quality childcare that have on children throughout their lives. We understand that each day Thousands of parents rely on childcare providers to maintain a safe environment for their children while they are at work. Other parents chooses to send their children to childcare providers to receive quality care and education in preparation for school. Research shows children undergo rapid growth in physical, cognitive, and psychological development during the early childhood years. And since many children spend most of their waking hours with our childcare providers, it is important that to be one that offers safe, healthy, nurturing care during early childhood years. It takes a special person as yourself to work with the childcare field. So it is important to show appreciation to these individuals, including those who may not immediately come to mind, such as teachers, cooks, bus driver, director, administrator, and other staff at childcare center and family childcare home, an affiliate agency to support the childcare community. Tonight, we thank you and we celebrate you, and not only your special day, but every day. At this time, I would like to play a video from the Child Care Awareness of America to show our appreciation to all of you wonderful child care providers and educators out there. Thank you. We apologize for a little technical difficulty, but we will play the video very soon, so please kindly be patient. It's a very special video. You will really like it. So we will start in a few seconds. Apparently, we have a little bit of technical difficulty, so when we are able to play the video, we will do so. But at this time, let's move on to our Q&A session. We would like to introduce our regional managers. We have 5 regional offices that will be attending and assisting us at this time. And these are the Southern Regional Office. From Palmdale, we have Scott Hearing. From Monterey Park, we have Deborah Zhao. From San Diego office, we have Joe Carrasco, sorry, Joe. And then from San Diego North office, we have Ms. Kimberly Hall. And then from the Orange Regional Childcare Office, we have Ms. Bertha Manzanares. And Joe will go ahead and lead off with the questions.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. So we're going to start off with the most upvote questions. So the first question, do we still need to keep up with all the COVID-19 posters that have been sent to us since 2020 that were required to be posted?
Hello, this is Kim. And at this time, it's a nice practice those posters up, but they're not mandatory. I would say if you're still having any outbreaks or children with symptoms, it's a good reminder of their practices, but it is not necessary to have those still posted as the state of emergency has been lifted. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Our next question. At a workshop by Every Child California, they shared that licensing has a regulation that licensees cannot use hand sanitizers with children. Hand washing must be done with soap and water only. Is that true? And if so, what regulation mandates this? I think Scott will answer this question for us.
All right, thank you, Joe. That's a good question. For infant-based programs, there's a regulation that includes hand washing with soap and water. For or other types of programs, it doesn't prohibit the use of sanitizer, but hand washing with soap and water is the method to be used. And the regulation, I believe I'm referencing in center-based programs is California Code of Regulations 101-638.2. And I'll double check that just to make sure. I believe it's 101-638.1 actually. So I can put that in the chat box if that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Our next question. LIC 508 is no longer completed for new hires. I'm sorry, that question got lost. Our next question, our program serves 3 to 5-year-old preschoolers with the addition of TK. Most of the 4-year-olds have opted to go to TK, and we are starting to serve more 3-year-olds. Has there been any discussion on guidance or support for preschool programs on transitioning to possibly needing to change diapers and meeting diapering requirements? We are not licensed for infant toddlers and cannot find guidance for preschool programs in regards to diapering. We need to start supporting younger students and want to ensure we have support guidance with this transition. And I'm not sure if one of our RMs on the call wants to step in on that one.
I can take that. There's no guidance specific to that at this time. However, I mean, and I can get others to jump in to chime in on this, but there's no guidance at the moment outside of working based on how you're able to meet the needs of those group of children in your care under the license that you have. Not sure if anyone wants to add to that.
I definitely agree with Deborah. There is no specific guidance at this time. However, if you have an increase of children that are not potty trained, that need that assistance, even though you may not have an infant program, you can refer to the regulations to see what regulations are there that help those that have those programs, and what things you can possibly implement in your preschool program so that you are providing appropriate assistance to kind of help them move along. Also, I would say reach out to your resource and referral to see if there's any classes or trainings, because this is a transitional period for everyone. And there may be some additional resources also that they can provide you.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Deborah. The next question. So LIC 508 is no longer completed for new hires, or is it just isn't completed until after fingerprints are associated to the facility?
Hi, Joe. This is Bertha. So PIN 22-14 indicates that the LIC 508 criminal record statement is discontinued and no longer be used to collect the criminal history. So it's no longer in use, and that's per PIN 22-14-CCLD.
Thank you, Bertha. Our next question, and I think this is more of a question in general for our audience, is everyone having a hard time finding qualified staff? I cannot take any more children because I cannot hire or find any staff to support the children. I have tried all the normal routes, colleges, Indeed, EdJoin, ads, Facebook, etc. And so on this, we do want to acknowledge we understand the concern. And so I appreciate you reaching out in this group and seeing if anybody else has any different ideas for recruiting and retention. And I'm not sure if any of the other RMs want to add to that.
Yes, you can reach out to your local regional office and request an exception. The department does recognize that there is a shortage of teachers, and the department is working together with the licensee. So please contact your regional office. And when you request the exception, make sure that you submit the request in writing, attach the transcripts of the classes that the individual has taken. And if you can attach the enrollment of the classes that the individual is missing. Sometimes they might be missing 1 or 2 classes or a core class. So we are definitely working together with the licensees, but you do need to reach out to your local regional office to request the exception for the teacher qualifications.
Thank you, Bertha, on that. Okay, our next question is, can we please provide an update on the 0 to 5 year license implementation? And I think Scott was going to take this one on.
Right, Joe. At this time, we're still working with our collaborators and our stakeholders together to get input about promulgating regulations, drafting regulations, and implementation procedures, how we're going to work with our data systems and all that, so we can integrate this into 0 to 5. To incorporate thousands of licensed facilities from 3 components into one, it's going to take a little bit of time so we could come in compliance with the law. But we are moving forward into a positive direction and putting everything together and developing a plan. And as soon as we get additional information, definitely. And there is a provider information notice that will be coming out late in the year that will provide updated information about how that's going to look like. So stay tuned in for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And I'm not sure if any of the other RMs would like to chime in. All right, so we'll go on to the next question. Our next question is, will the mandated reporter training for childcare providers be updated to represent the transition to community supporting?
Hi, thanks, Joe. So yes, the OCAP is currently working on updating our mandated reporter training to reflect these changes. I will, in the chat, put our website as well as the website that goes directly to the mandated reporter training. It isn't updated yet, but that is where you'd want to bookmark for the updates.
Thank you so much. Our next question, are infant toddler units going to be required for preschool program staff serving more 2-year-olds under their license? This would be due to 4-year-olds moving to TK and preschools needing enrollment.
I can chime in on that. It ties into the previous question I think that was asked on working with the reaching out to R&R to see how you can, which regulation, I'm sorry, that you can refer to accommodate that population that you'll be working with. And then if anyone else wants to add to it.
Yes, if you have a preschool license, even though you may have younger 2s, it doesn't require for you to have the infant toddler units or training, but it's not a bad idea if you notice that you're going to get younger children to have that background, but it's not actually stated that you have to have the infant toddler unit if you don't have an infant toddler license, if you truly just have a preschool license. But if you need additional guidance, please remember, reach out to your LPAs that have been to your facilities. They kind of know what your setups are, kind of how you run your programs, and they're a really good resource that you can bounce ideas off of, and they can help provide you guidance and possibly give you some resources for the area that you're in. You have 5 managers on the line, and I know San Diego is not like Orange or Palmdale or Los Angeles. So wherever you are in the state, please reach out to your local offices and please reach out to your analysts, because they really do want to help you, and they may have some resources that we don't even know of. So I hope that is helpful for you.
Thank you, Kim.
Hi, Joe. I just kind of wanted to reiterate on the question because I think it was referencing the preschool license. So regulations 10216.1 makes reference to the qualifications in regards to the unit. It states that it's 12 post-secondary semester or equivalent quarter units in child education or child development, plus the units in child growth and development or human growth and development, child, family, and community, or child and family and program and curriculum. So as long as it meets that criteria for the units, that meets the intent of the regulation for teachers that are currently working in a preschool license.
Thank you, Bertha, for that clarification. Okay, our next question. We did a fire pre-inspection recently and learned of a new code stating infants as children ages 3 years and under. Is this the same for CCLD? Will this change capacity and ratio?
Hi. Because each fire department, they differ between regions, please contact your local, the one specific to your local area and your regional office. And simply because they vary across the state. So.
Thank you, thank you, Deborah. Okay. A child has an IEP and is enrolled in a local education agency program with additional special education support. The employee is there to assist the child with toileting. They do not have ECE units. They have been fingerprinted and we have their immunization, flu, and TB. We were told that the employee cannot be alone with the child and that an employee with an ECE unit that is on our license must supervise them. Is this accurate?
I can take a stab at it because I'm not sure exactly how the question is framed. I'll just answer it the way I'm reading it or hearing it. So I'm assuming that the person is an aide without without 6 units or 12 units of ECE, and they must be with a qualified teacher to work in an early childhood education setting. So the regulations, interpreting from that aspect of it, they would need to be working under the guise with a qualified instructor. Now, if the individual is there authorized by the parent per the IEP and they're acting as a personal assistant to the child and not an employee with the school or agency, and they're directly providing service or acting as an assistant to the child, they could be technically providing that direct care to the child. But I believe the question covers as an employee acting as an assistant. So if the requester wants to add additional information, then we can circle back.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, so the next question's in Spanish por Rosalina. Si por favor le puede llamar a su oficina regional y le pueden ayudar con su pregunta. Okay, gracias. Okay, our next question is, do I need to wear the mask in my home daycare, or can I stop wearing it?
Okay, I'll jump. It's not a requirement, but of course, depending on what's going on in your facility, it's optional, but it's not a requirement at this time.
And I just wanted to touch on that the PIN that went out makes reference for to review the California Department of Public Health, and it's a guidance for schools. And when you go to that website and the landing page, it really talks about the SMART plan that the Governor Newsom implemented. And it's really broken down into 3 categories: low, medium, and high. It's really good for our providers to go to that website, because yes, it gives you different scenarios, but if it's low, it basically says it's based on personal preference. So I would just remind the providers to continue to do the guidance through the California Department of Public Health. And it's great information, and there's a matrix that you can refer to.
Thank you. Our next question. This question may be random, but during one of our teacher meetings, a discussion came about regarding children wearing and not wearing shoes during nap time in case of an emergency. Are there any thoughts, and what is recommended and required? I'm not sure if
So,
I'll-
go ahead, Deborah. Yeah.
So there's no requirement that shoes need to be on or off. It's based on, the comfort. Some children fall asleep with their shoes and they're fine. But yes, you do have to consider emergency situation. So I believe it's shoes, right? Joe, it has to do with shoes, not mask. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, shoes, it's about, yes, you do have to think about in case of emergency, needing to get out right away, but it's there's no requirement to whether leave them on or leave them off. So it's, again, comfort of the child, but have it nearby, if you do take it off. So.
Thank you, Deborah.
And I would just add to that is that if you have a child that has their shoes off, and let's say there is an emergency, a recommendation or best practice is maybe make sure that you have on a pair of socks. So if you do have to run out because you don't have time for them to put their shoes on first, at least there's something on their feet. So I would say, just as a recommendation, if they don't like their shoes on, but let's say something happens, have them have a pair of socks on. So that way, if you have to run out, at least they're not barefoot.
Thank you, Kim. Okay. Title 22 states a medical religious exemption is still acceptable for vaccines. There is a new law stating that it's no longer true. When will Title 22 update that?
Off the cut, there's no time frame for that, but we can, you can always, again, register for the PIN, and I'll have to see if any of my colleagues have additional information on that, but right now we don't have a time frame.
This is Scott, and as we're working toward a 0 to 5, we're working on other pieces of regulations and procedures that we're trying to catch up with the bills that are passed. So we're working toward that and moving toward in that direction, so we can get the information out to you so our regulations can catch up. But we are moving forward that, and as soon as we get updated information, we'll provide that to you. But your own answer to that response is correct.
Thank you. Okay, so our next question is in Spanish, and so I'll answer this one quickly in Spanish. Esta mensaje es para la señora Rubio. Si por favor le puede llamar a su oficina regional y le pueden ayudar con su pregunta del dinero que tenía. Gracias. Okay, our next question. As a family childcare owner, I do receive all the information to my email. How can I change my preference only that apply for childcare or family childcare? There are too many emails and sometimes I do not find time to read all of them, even though they are not applicable to me. Thanks.
Hi, this is Scott. I can answer that question. So that's an excellent question that we'll need to take back, and we'll review that question and see if we can work with our programmers and see what we can do. But that's an excellent point you raised up. The short answer is some of our a lot of our pins and information do cross over in family childcare homes and childcare centers. So information might be beneficial to both. But however, if there's anything that can be filtered or sorted out, maybe there's a functionality that we can take back and review from the programmer level.
Thank you, Scott. Our recertification re-enrollments are now every 2 years due to CDE and DSS funding. Can licensing forms be completed every 2 years now and be considered current, like the admission contract?
I think,
Question.
I was going to say, I think this question, if we can just get a little bit more clarification, because for community care licensing, when the LPAs review the forms, if the child is enrolled and the form is there, we review it. To us, it's not a 2-year thing or not a 3-year thing, it's completed. I think this is something that if we can kind of clarify, I think it's out of the scope of for the enforcement side of CCL. So I think it's a great question that we can definitely take back to the part of the CDE, but for our division of the enforcement part of community care licensing, if the form is completed because the child is attending and the form is complete, that's really the intent of our regulation when we're reviewing records.
Thank you, Bertha. School districts are now allowing children return after 5 days of being home with COVID. Can we continue with our 10-day exclusion policy?
I would recommend, that's a internal preference, but please refer back to your local public health guidance to make sure that you're in line, follow that guidance. And
Thank you, Deborah.
sorry.
Okay. Any update on the single license for centers? Haven't heard much these last few years.
Hi, Joe, this is Scott. I believe I touched on this question earlier. We are expecting an updated PIN to be released in later the year regarding the single license update. We're still collecting collaborative input from our stakeholders. We're still developing a process that best fits for the integration of the combination or the components into the single license aspects 0 to 5. So more information to be released fairly soon.
Thank you, Scott. Our next question is, can we access the recording at a later time? We have some staff that couldn't attend tonight. And my understanding is that the recording will be posted on the website once it's completed. So be on the lookout on the website and it should be posted along with the PowerPoint presentation. Our next question, when will site visits return? And for this one, we are already doing annual inspections, complaint inspections, case management inspections. So I'm not sure if that's what the person was referring to, but if not, if you could add some more comments and we'll be sure to answer your question. Okay, our next question. Clarification needed, please, for staff who can change diapers in infant and preschool programs. Do assistants with less than 6 units need a qualified teacher in the room with them while they change children? I'm not sure if any of our RMs, we need to take that back or we have an answer.
No, I think,
I'm sorry,
go ahead, Scott.
So reread the question, because my first thought is if you're working as an aide in a classroom, you're providing an element of care and supervision, which may include changing an infant diaper, then you would need a qualified teacher to be in the area with in the classroom or in the area being able to assist when readily available. So changing a diaper, whether you're assisting or providing an element of care and supervision, would require in the area of a qualified teacher or an aide that has requested and been approved with an exception to work as a qualified teacher with 6 or more units.
Thank you, Scott. Okay. Our next question. We were previously told that programs that are on a local education, I'm sorry, it scrolled down, my apologies. Local education school campus do not use the Guardian for background checks since all of our staff are hired through the district and have background checks as part of the hiring process. While a sub-administrator was covering our program, they were asked for Guardian information during a licensing visit. Can you please confirm that programs on a local education agency do or do not need to use the Guardian?
Right, this is Scott. I can answer that question. So depending, it would be helpful to give a more accurate response with additional information because I'm gonna look at this from a public agency perspective and provide that response. So individuals that are employed by a district or a local education agency, employees directly, are not subject to the requirement, whether they be now if they're substituted and they're contracted out through a private agency and not employees of the school district, they would be subject to the Title 22 requirements and subject to Guardian. So I hopefully that provides some clarity to your response. But if a substitute is herein employed by the school district, they would not be subject to the specified requirements as they do meet the requirements being employed of the district themselves.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, our next question. Are we required to have our own supplies on hand in our preschool classroom? All school sites have emergency supplies in a central location. This is for a CSIP on a LEA.
For emergency supplies to be centrally located, that's acceptable. However, you still need to have something readily accessible to you. I know it's tied to first aid kit. Within your own classrooms or programs. But is the school, are you in agreement with the school that you can use that central located supplies for your program? So that's something you need to confirm.
Thank you, Deborah. Our next question. I am a CSIP and somehow got an email distribution list for programs under CDSS. I have not unsubscribed because I don't want to miss any information from licensing intended for all programs. Is there a way to distinguish which ones are for all licensed programs and which ones are only for programs under CDSS? And I believe we answered this one earlier. This is something that we'll take back and see if we can do. And if it is, there'll be a PIN release for this. So we'll take this question back and see if there's something that we can do about that. Okay. Our next question, our district has its own mandated reporter training. Is this okay, or do we have to use the mandated reporter.com training?
Joe, I can answer this question. Our CCL website has a list of contract vendors that you can access, so you can take vendorized trainings that have been approved by California Department of Social Services and by our program. So you can look on there, and if we can find it, we can attach the link there so you can access those directly.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Our next question. Do therapists and other required people that provide services in preschool classroom need to have a licensing file at our site, just as our regular staff?
Sorry, Joe, can you please repeat that?
Yes. So the question was, do therapists and other required people that provide services in preschool classrooms need to have a licensing file at our site, just as our regular staff do?
It will be best to have some kind of documentation tied into that child. If you know, these individuals that are coming on site will be providing specialized services. Since you're already working with the parent, agreeing and confirming this person is qualified, at least in their field, you should have something on file just in case there, you know, just questions, and it shouldn't be much, so.
Thank you,
If
Deborah.
anyone wants to add to it. But.
I think if there's a therapist, generally there's the IEP that's attached to the child. So if that information is available, it'll be great for the LPs to know that that is the reason that individual is present, is part of the IEP for the child that's working with the child.
Thank you, Bertha. Okay, our next question. How do we associate an existing person in the Guardian system to our school? We can find the individual on the Guardian, but we cannot find a way to associate this person.
If Cynthia, we can provide the pin on the chat. There's a pin in Guardian that has an email address. I don't have that email address directly for Guardian, but if you can send the email directly to Guardian, they will be able to respond. So we will definitely add the pin or the, oh, thank you so much. They just added the email address to Guardian. So please direct your question directly to Guardian. They'll be able to respond to you and assist you with that part of your challenge of adding the employee.
Thank you, Bertha. Hi, I completed my ARP survey last year, but never got confirmation that you received it. Was I supposed to receive some kind of confirmation?
I'm sorry, I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure what that abbreviation is, AARP. I'm not sure if my peers know, but if someone can clarify what is the abbreviation for AARP? Greatly would appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, Bertha. I believe that's related to the stipends earlier. So I believe the question, so I'm going to answer it in two ways. So just kind of respond like the earlier slide information did. If you already previously registered, you would need to re-register as the slide present, but I believe the question was that you didn't receive a confirmation the first time. I haven't looked at the website link or anything of that nature. If anybody wants else to add in, but for anybody registers, there should be a link or a contact to troubleshoot, or a FAQ within that point to follow up. You can send a follow-up email. And if you want to reach out to your local regional office for further assistance, you can reach out at any time to one of the 5 regional managers listed on here.
Thank you. And we're going to take one more question, and then we're going to hand it over back to Jane so that we could watch the video and final comments on tonight's presentation. Our district has its, our next question, please give us an update on the minor grant checks being sent.
I'm sorry, Joe. I just wanted to circle back on the question about the changing table with the 3-year-old. It just read in the classroom with the 3-year-old children, is a changing table required for children that are not fully potty trained. The changing table, it's really addressed for the infant license, and the preschool license, it's not required. It is something that you would decide what is best suited when you are diapering the children, whether you just want to use the potty chair or whether you want to use the changing table. That's really up to the licensee of the preschool. But as my peer previously suggested, that it is definitely a great idea to review the regulations for the infant license, because it talks about the diapering, the changing table. So if you choose to use a changing table, you could kind of follow the guidelines for the infant license, but for the preschool, it's not required.
Thank you, Bertha. And with that, we will hand it over to Jane. We just want to thank you on behalf of the regional management team. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to answer some of your questions. I know that there was more questions than we could answer, but we highly continue to encourage you attendees as information continues to come out on a rolling basis. So thank you so much, and I'll hand it over to Jane.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you to all the managers. At this time, we would like for you to see the survey for 2023. We do encourage you to please fill out the survey. We really want to hear your responses. We value your suggestions so that we can make changes to our future provider webinar. So please, as you can see, there is a QR code on your screen. Please take a moment to take your camera out, get it onto your website on your phone so you can do the first survey. We will also share the link in the chat, I believe. So please go ahead and do the survey for us, because we really, really appreciate your input so that we can update and make these provider webinar much better and be able to assess what we need to make changes. At this time, we'll give it another minute or so for people to be able to do the survey, and then we will try again to play the video for you, because we really do appreciate all of your hard work as childcare providers out there. And we do apologize for the technical difficulty earlier. So let me give it another minute.
Happy Child Care Appreciation Day.
Happy Child Care Appreciation.
Those teachers out there, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Did I remember to say thank you? Thank you.
For choosing to teach young children. You've always cared for our kids with such love.
The one consistency was having you take care of them each day and knowing that they were feeling loved.
The love that you have for the kids is amazing.
And we appreciate all that you do to love them every day.
The girls have felt loved and cared for.
I am honestly so grateful for the creativity that you bring.
You've done a spectacular job of creating a fun and comfortable environment amidst the chaos of our world.
We know that this past year with the pandemic hasn't been easy either. So thanks for coming to work every day and taking care of our kids.
You have been the rock of our society.
Know that you are very much appreciated.
COVID or no COVID, you help ease the nerves of handing my baby over to someone else to care for it all day.
We love you.
We love you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. And we want to thank you again for attending this very first quarterly childcare provider webinar for 2023. We would also want to say thank you to our special guest speaker, Amy Foster from the Office of Child Abuse Prevention. We also want to thank all of the interpreters, our tech support team, staff from regional offices, and program team for their contribution to this evening webinar. Remember, you may retrieve a copy of this PowerPoint from our DSS website in multiple languages. Please do not forget to complete the survey, as I mentioned earlier, if you do receive it, or if you can be able to log in. Please review PIN 22-30 CCP to register for future upcoming childcare provider webinars. Thank you again for supporting our children, our family, and the childcare community. We look forward to you joining us in future webinars. Again, have a wonderful evening, everybody. Bye-bye.
The recording has stopped.